Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next edition of Coffee, Tea, You and Me. Today is a special day. We're celebrating Black History Month, and I'm wearing my Howard University hat. We're talking about the Mecca today. We also, I got my African American Museum of Natural History shirt on, as a matter of fact, as well. So this is all about the culture today. It's so good to see you guys. So good to have everybody aboard. As you know, we focus on helping small businesses and SWAM businesses kind of understanding how to use their energy, their focus, and their productivity and make it maximize all those possibilities. My name is Coach Powell, and this is the show. We will be right back after this brief commercial message. If I can figure out how to make the commercial message happen. Look at that. I just absolutely love that thing. Okay, boys and girls, this is going to be a great show today. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone in our studio audience. And it looks like my guest has made it into the back stream. I'm going to have a little chat. I'm going to welcome one of my favorite attorneys is on the show today, ladies and gentlemen. Mrs. Carmen Booker is the no joke most talented and wonderful attorneys that are out there in the Washington metropolitan area. She's dedicated to helping small businesses and organizations get their act together and do great things in the nonprofit community, nonprofit world, as well as many other things. And she's going to go through. Carmen, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Powell. I appreciate you allowing me to come on board as your guest today. I am an attorney. I have a business consulting firm called Company Perfect Professional Services, and I'm a business and nonprofit consultant. And so what I do specifically is I establish corporations, limited liability companies, and a lot of nonprofit organizations. We help nonprofits secure their federal and state tax exemption status and get funding for their programs and services. We also write contracts of any kind, whether it's business, partnership agreements, real estate, entertainment contracts. And we do trademark searches and registrations to protect your brand, your business name and logo. So I've been doing this for about 26 years.
Oh my God. So good to have you on the show, Carmen. I mean, when you and I met, we just hit it off on the phone automatically. And I just thought, this is crazy. Actually, I'm wearing my Howard hat too today.
Yay, great.
Just to celebrate you, because everybody knows I did not go to Howard, but they still getting some of my money. So I'm gonna make sure they I'll make sure I represent correctly. That's just wonderful. And Carmen's going to go with us through our agenda today. We've got a big agenda. We're going to talk a lot about what it takes to be successful in creating and valuing your professional relationships. How do you do it? How do you avoid the traps that are out there? How do you act on principle, making sure you're doing the right things there? How do you communicate so well that you can create magic with other people almost every time you do it, right? And how do you make sure that you're taking advantage of what we call the power of the ask? And last but not least, we'll be talking about how do you establish your return on investment for your attention and why that's important. And Carmen, as you kind of hear some things or have some ideas you want to chip in and do so, you can go ahead and raise your hand or let me know that, hey, just jump right on in. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to phase me because I got good notes, so I know where I am and where I'm going to go. And we're going to get started. The inspiration for today's conversation came from a poem that I read by Nikki Giovanni. And Nikki Giovanni says that you should deal with yourself as an individual worthy of respect and make others deal with you the same way. So deal with yourself as an individual worthy of respect and make others deal with you in the same way. So now what does any of this have to do with maximizing the value of your professional relationships? When you think about professional relationships, I don't know about you, but for me, I always think about, okay, as an introvert, I'm always looking to make relationships happen. And I know that left to my own instinct and my own personality, I might not be as engaging or as interesting as others would like or others are used to, but I still need those relationships in order to leverage and create opportunities for myself. And so now I'm realizing that I have to be proactive. I have to make sure that I step out there and I do great things, and that I'm intentional about what I do. I'm also have to be intentional about how I'm received. And so that requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot more than just knowing what I want to say, but also knowing that what I say can have an impact on others, and what that impact might look or feel like depends greatly on who they are, where they enter, where they're coming from, what their experience has been. And there's a lot that goes into it. In fact, the traps that people tend to find themselves in when they go out networking, or they try to establish an advisory council or some kind of mentorship policy with someone, or they're trying to just create a new relationship that they can leverage and create trust so they can move up with their lives, they tend to fall into some typical traps. One, they have the incorrect mindset from the beginning. They're all thinking about me, 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 me. And that's all they're thinking about. And they don't really understand that every relationship is give and take, and they have to figure out what they have to give and take. Two, they have a horrible plan. If they have any plan at all, it's just a shoot from the hip kind of thing. I'm just going to pick up the phone and call somebody. In fact, my wife is a specialist in internships at the Library of Congress. And of course, they do a lot of virtual internships. And it's a really, really great opportunity for a lot of people. So therefore, a lot of young people specifically are, coming at them in droves. So the bar of the competition is high. So you can't come looking for an opportunity to even get their attention if you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you want to do. You don't know why you want to do it. You kind of look like you're not, you're a novice. And so the deck is stacked against, and this is for every place, everywhere. They're stacked against people who aren't quite ready to receive this opportunity. And it's their job literally to sift through all the millions of applications for any job or anything else, to really try to decide, hey, Candace, I see you out there, sweetie. Thank you for joining in today. It's their opportunity to really just sort through everything. But this is always the case anytime you're trying to enter a new relationship with a new person, a new organization. There are a lot of people who are vying for their attention. There are a lot of people who are trying to get there. There are a lot of people who are trying to gain interest and develop some type of connection. And so people have to sift through all that in order to figure out what's good and what's right. And what's good and what's right kind of has to stand out, and has to stand out and shout pretty much, because gone are the days, the old days you used to say, well, the work that I do will speak for me. Remember those days, Carmen? People
yes,
say,
I do.
You got to work really hard. You got to work really hard. And all of a sudden, but from your hard work, opportunities are just going to show up, right? Well, we know the reality is they don't happen. That doesn't happen that way. Because the right people have to see your work. And it still has to be good work. It still has to be hard work, but the right people have to see it, and the right people have to notice it, and the right people have to connect with it. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. Most people don't even have a plan with how to express themselves, or to understand how to share and show who they are and what it is they do. They don't know how to gain trust. They don't know how to get it from the right people, right? And there's also that fumbled execution strategy. A lot of times people, even if you have a plan, you fumble. You fumble because there's no way to practice and rehearse. There's no way to run it back. There's no way to really say to people who might be of the same kind of caliber as the people they're trying to get into, or the relationships you're trying to get into. There's no way to get the feedback and the practice. And so what happens is you make mistakes. And then people don't tell you make mistakes. They don't tell you, I don't like the way your diction is. I don't like what you were doing. I don't like what you said. I don't like blah, blah. They're not going to tell you that. They're going to say you're not qualified. And that's it. Because they don't owe you an explanation. They're not even going to promise you that they'll help you figure it out, because that's not what they're in it for. They're trying to find somebody, or even if they're not trying to find somebody, they want to work with somebody who is obviously a winner already. So let's break that down a little bit further. Why is it important that you have the correct mindset when you go out there networking? When you go out there networking with people, you have to understand sort of how the brain works. everybody who is meeting someone for the first time is literally on guard, right? So their natural tendency is to put a sort of a wall up and go, okay, why is this person trying to get my attention? Why is this person trying to connect with me? I don't care if it's email, phone call, text message. It doesn't really matter how you meet them. Even in today's when we're Zoom calling everybody and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to even get a chance to make a first impression, right? So when you do, you certainly have to show up with the goods. So what does that mean? What do you have to do? That means you got to do your homework first. If you're talking to somebody cold and you haven't a clue about them, you haven't even done a simple Google search about who they are, what they might be interested in, what they represent, where they came from, anything like that, then you're taking a shot in the dark. There's a void in there, and now you have to go through their filter, whatever that filter is, because you haven't even got past the first couple things. So it just so happens that when I reached out to Carmen, I think I made the initial reach out, right?
Yes, I believe so, Mr. Powell. You did.
I did my homework. I knew she was the stuff before I talked to her. I knew she was experienced. I knew that she was talented in what she did. She's been in the game a long time, which means she knows where all the bones are buried and and how to uncover all the stuff, right? And I know a little bit about her background. So that was important because that gave me confidence in knowing how to approach and maybe what to say or maybe what not to say, so that I wouldn't immediately derail the program and take us into a negative situation. Because it's not the time, I can tell you this right now, it's not the time to call Carmen and come up with a whole bunch of misogynistic, anti-religious liturgy. Not that I'm like that anyway, because I'm not, but I certainly, we lost her somehow. Maybe she'll come back on. Maybe she's got a bad internet connection. But I certainly couldn't do that, right? You certainly couldn't. You made it back on. That's great. I don't know where I lost you because I probably had an internet surge or something like that on either my side or your side.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Remember?
Hello?
Do you remember what we were saying, Carmen?
You were saying how you reached out to me, you did your homework and checked out my LinkedIn profile. So you know my interests and my background and experience.
Yes. But I couldn't come to you like some misogynistic dude, who was, spouting off anti-female rhetoric or something like that. Not that I would have, but I certainly couldn't have and gotten away with it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So it's very important to research information about a person that you want to reach out to, and be yourself. I truly recommend that you just be yourself. Go in there with confidence. Know your value and express that value, how you can help them. And that's what people are looking for. When you go in with that kind of mindset, I'm here to help you achieve your goal, achieve your dream, achieve your vision, then people gravitate to that and they're open to hear you and listen to you and connect with you.
That is so true. I get that whole, I agree with that 100%. I mean, Benjamin Franklin says, by failing to prepare, you prepare to fail. Mm-hmm. And that's really what it's all about. You can't take anything for granted when it comes to relationships. Even if you are trying to rejuvenate an old one or you're trying to pick up a new one, you have to prepare.
Yes, absolutely. Preparation is key and critical. Preparation is the foundation for planning. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Small Business Administration says that 80% of the businesses fail because of lack of planning. So planning is key and crucial to attain success.
Absolutely.
Business and personal.
And it wasn't, I it's funny because when I created the training for today's talk, I always go back to the ancient texts. So I'll go back to the Bible, the Quran, the Torah. I'll go back to figure out, what we've always said about certain things. And the Bible has always said things like, when it comes to planning, that you need to make your plans really, really well. Once you've made your plans, though, you have to step out there on faith.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
You can't make your plans and then just start doing stuff, but not really have a belief, that backs you up. A faith, a process that backs you up, that you can depend on, because, and this is my interpretation of the whole thing, with all the information you have, with all the plans that you've made, you are still going to bump into some hiccups along the way and some unknowns, and you can't let that stuff derail you. You gotta pivot, adjust, and get back in the game.
That's right.
The Bible also says, in your planning, you must count your costs, meaning you must plan very well. Understand your cost benefit analysis of everything that you're doing, because if you make a mistake and you don't count the cost well, then you'll find yourself in a situation where you have expended more energy, social capital, money, whatever it is that you have to expend. And now you're going into a deficit, and you're going into a point where, in order to continue, you got to cheat. In order to continue, you got to rob Peter to pay Paul, kind of thing. You got to figure out how to put a Band-Aid on it and keep it moving. And that's very, very difficult for people, because if you haven't really counted the cost and go, how much am I willing to expend? How much am I willing to give? How much am I willing to invest in this business, in this idea, in this concept? How much social capital am I willing to expend? How much financial capital am I willing to expend? How much energy and effort am I willing to expend? Because you got to have an idea about that. If you don't have an idea about that, somebody's going to ask you to spend more than you've prepared to spend, and you have no way to pivot. You have no way to go. And if you say yes, that's going to take you into bankruptcy, some kind of bankruptcy, not necessarily financial bankruptcy. Could be emotional bankruptcy, could be social bankruptcy, right? But you're gonna end up making a bigger commitment than you have the ability to make, and that's gonna cause the problem. So I think a lot of times people, when they're networking, they haven't really thought about, I'm asking somebody to be my mentor. What's the cost? What's it gonna cost them? What's it gonna cost me? And what do I want this relationship to look at? They don't have any of those details, because all they know, they want to get married, which is ridiculous. You gotta have, some idea. So, and I always tell people when they ask for mentors all the time, listen, don't ask me to be your mentor, because that's asking me to make a commitment. You're trying to get married. I'm not trying to do that. But if there's something I can help you with, then point blank ask me what that is. If that's possible, and if it's not possible, under what circumstance might it be possible? Because that keeps you in the game. That keeps you moving forward in the relationship. But people who make the mistake of thinking, I'll just ask somebody to be my mentor, ask somebody to be on my advisory council, see if I can network with somebody. Well, you're not ready for that yet. You have to slow down. Ask for permission. Make sure it's going to be okay with the other person. Be specific about what you want them to do, because that way they can say yes or no to something specific versus something vague.
I want to piggyback on what you said
Go ahead.
previously in reference to vision, having a plan. A lot of people have plans, but it's so important to write those plans down, write them down on paper. Because the word of God, the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain, and then execute it. But I add something in addition to that as well. I say, write the vision, make it plain, and execute the vision. So be sure to put timelines to your plan, to your vision, to your goals, your action plan, which is really a business plan.
That's right. And the last Bible quote I'm going to go on before I move on to the next topic is that diligence leads to abundance, right? The more diligent you are in everything that you do, when it comes to business planning, networking, whatever you do, it's going to work out in your favor. It's going to work out good, but you got to be diligent. One of the things that most people don't do on a regular daily schedule is plan and review. Plan in the morning. Do your little daily plan for what you're gonna do. Pray over it, meditate over it, do whatever you do, drink over it, do whatever you do. And then at the end of the day, go ahead and reflect on what worked, what didn't work, how it may have worked, what you might do tomorrow to make it better, and then plan to do something a little different, a little better tomorrow. Just because you put a plan down, maybe a long-term plan or some goals down, don't mean you don't have to revisit them over and over and over and over again. Don't mean you have to take account for them over and over again. And you have to keep awareness at the top of your mind of what's going on and what's really going on. Know what's really, really, really going on in order for you to stay focused. Because if you don't, I think you're gonna find yourself kind of going down a rabbit hole, and you won't even know that you spent too much time, effort, and energy on something, and you needed to back off, or you approached it incorrectly, and you need to slow down or shift or pivot. You won't know because you're not paying attention. You're not aware. So as much as we plan for the long-term goals, we also have to plan in the short term to maintain the concepts that we focus on, maintain the relationships that we have, the connections that we have with our character, so that we don't lose ourselves in whatever we're searching for, because that can happen so easily especially when someone comes along with a great idea. Some of us are like goldfish, like, oh, this is a great idea. We're gonna go over there. Let's do another great. Oh, we can go over there. And every time there's a new idea, we jump on it like it's like this. It's the next new thing, and we're not realizing that every time we commit to some new thing, we're also not committing to something else. That might be important. So if you're not staying focused and staying in the game, then you got a problem. All right, so that's pretty much when it comes to avoiding the traps. You have to realize that one, you have to have the correct mindset up front. Two, you got to make a plan, stick to it, understand it, you know how to use it. And three, you need to make sure that what did I do with that? Man, I got a lot of information here. Don't fumble the execution strategy. Make sure you execute. Because if you don't execute and you don't plan that execution phase to be flexible, then you're going to lose something in the process. Clearly, it's important to rehearse. It's important, especially when you're going to deal with other people. A lot of us are nervous with new people or other people, or we're kind of standoffish and not quite all the way us yet, because we don't know if it's okay to be us yet. That nervousness kind of shows up as incompetence to other people. When you're not confident, when you don't approach yourself or approach a situation with a level of confidence, people will automatically assume that you're not competent. And it's by no fault of yours. You might be the smartest person on the block. You might be the sharpest tack in the drawer or knife in the drawer, right? But if you show up like you're not confident, their brains are going to automatically engage and start to worry about they're going to start to be afraid of you. And it's not like even a conscious thing. Because, what do we do when people don't act the part, don't look the part, that we're looking for, that we need? Do we gravitate to them? Do we get closer to them, or do we try to figure out a way to escape from them? Because those people are making us feel uncomfortable, And so you got to think about that. There's some old cliches that you kind of have to have a plan for, but they're also very true. We like working with winners. People love winners. That's it. If you showing up like a winner, then you're more likely to get the benefit of the doubt for things that maybe go to the left or to the right and sideways in some kind of way. If you show up like a loser, well, what we perceive as a loser, then you're less likely to get us to want to jump on board with whatever you're doing and wherever you're going, because now you need sympathy, not empathy. You need sympathy. You need somebody to really, really come down and at your level and reach you and bring you out and bring you up. And that's not something that most people, busy professionals, have time for, because they're busy trying to fight their own battles. They want to find people who can help them slay the dragons that they're looking for, that they're after. They're not looking for people that they got to come and rescue all the time. Every once in a while, it's good to come off the ivory tower and rescue the poor huddle masses yearning to be free. But the reality is, most of the time, we're trying to do what we need to do to create whatever we need to create in our life and our vision. And so I think that is very, very important. I think when you're out networking with people, you have to remember What's in it for them? What is it that you bring to the table that could be useful for them? And don't think because you don't have experience doing what they do that you don't have anything to bring to the table, because that's not true. We all have gifts. We
Yes.
all have talents. We all have something to bring to the table. And even if the person that you're offering your service to, the person that you're offering your brilliance to, your talents or whatever, can't use it, maybe they know somebody who can. And so you playing small because you feel like you're not at the level that somebody else is not doing you or them any really good service. And you got to think about that. I always tell my friends and family, when it comes to expressing your gifts and your talent, that's your responsibility. That's your life's responsibility. That's your purpose. And if you have the ability to share it, then you have to figure out how to articulate it, how to share it, how to write it down, how to communicate it as best you possibly can, as often as you possibly can, to whomever you find comes within your circle. Because what you'll find is that when you do this, you stay close to your values, you stay close to your purpose. People can see that authenticity in you, and then they can believe in you. And that can transfer. That becomes a trust begins to be built that can transfer from one person to person to person to person.
Yeah.
And it's key. Go for it.
Yeah, I wanted to also add this. Everybody is valuable and gifted. God created every person. And because of that, you are valuable because God created you and He can only create greatness. So once you realize that and believe and act upon that, then people are going to see that and they're going to gravitate to you. So it's important to affirm who you are in God. Affirm that you're valuable. Affirm that you have spiritual gifts that God's gifted you with. Affirm that you have a God-given purpose and discover what that is and fulfill it. Because I truly believe that once you do that, you're going to live a life of fulfillment. And as a matter of fact, I've written a book on that very thing called Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. Yes, and people can get that book and other ministry books I've written through my website, Wings of Love, Women's Ministry.org. That's Wings of Love, Women's Ministry.org. And you can also go to my business site, CompUPerfect.net. That's CompUPerfect.net to see all the services that we're providing that can help you and help people in your network as well. But I truly believe that it's important to say affirmations such as I'm productive, I'm special, I'm gifted, I'm loved. Because once you say that and continue to say it, it helps you to believe it. And it helps to affirm it in your heart and mind. Okay? So affirmations are key and critical to your development.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. Couldn't have said it better myself. Acting on principle is the next thought and idea that we want to share today. I can't tell you. I mean, before we go into that, I got a lot of people in the studio audience, and listen, if you're out there and it doesn't matter if you've come on before, do me a favor and type in the chat, tell us where you're from, how you connected to us, where you found us, all that kind of stuff. And if there's somebody out there, that I haven't met before or whatever, I'm definitely going to give you a shout out. So if there's some business connections you have or something that you want us to pay attention to, a website or whatever that is, go ahead and put that in the chat and we will honor you with a shout out or a special introduction or anything like that. So, and feel free. And by the way, if you have any questions about anything that we're talking about, again, go ahead and put that in the chat too, because we're going to take some intermittent breaks along the way during the program. And maybe we'll get, a question. If you got a question for Carmen or a question for me, go ahead and throw those in. Doesn't matter who. And maybe she'll answer it. Maybe I'll answer it. And we'll see what we can do to keep the conversation going. Okay. So next idea we want to talk about when it comes to developing invaluable relationships with people is understanding that you need to act on principle and why you need to act on principle. And what do I mean by principle? Principles are the rules that govern everything. They govern everything. And there's nothing that you can do with principle except accept the principle, learn the principle, understand the principle, and act accordingly. Because if you act against a principle, you're going to suffer consequences. Now, The consequences might be small for you. They might be big for you. I don't know, but there will always be consequences when you act against a principle. Now, people obviously confuse the difference between a principle and a value. So let's clear that up. Principles are foundational ideas that govern all behavior. They have before we existed, they will after we exist. They are timeless and they are forever. Values, however, are how you interpret the things that you want to do, that you care about, and that are important to you in your life. You get to choose values. You do not get to choose principles. They both govern our decision making, our thoughts, and what we do, but one is different. And that principles are different in that they don't belong to you. You don't need to choose them. They're going to work whether you are understanding them or not. You're going to suffer the consequences whether you understand the law or you don't. But trust me, when you break these laws, you will suffer the consequences. You know, what is that they say in the law? That something is not you're not responsible to understand the law or know the law. You just can't break it. Something like that. It's some phrase that I used to hear all the time. What is it?
Ignorance is no defense to the law.
Yes, that's it. That is it. Ignorance isn't a defense, right? But so you need to know the principles that of every game, everything that you're doing, no matter what it is you're doing, it has rules. It has rules, it has principles, it has ethics, it has policies, and you need to know what those things are before you decide, you know what, they don't apply to me. I'm just going to break the rules. I'm going to make the rules up. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not saying you're not free to do what you want to do, but you're also free to suffer the consequences. All right. So, you know, you're not free from suffering the consequences from breaking principles. So if anybody has any challenges to that and you want to talk about that, go ahead and throw that in the chat. But I'm pretty sure that I'm right about this one. Hi, Candace. How are you? You remember me? Oh, that's Suresh. So Suresh is my people are talking to each other in the chat over here, which is great. So the quote that I want to share with you when it comes to principles and using them or not using them is from Pablo Picasso. Picasso says, learn the rules like a pro so that you can break them like an artist. Learn the rules like a pro so that you can break them like an artist. And I'm going to throw a little interpretation on top of that because Picasso's not saying don't be a professional. He's not saying don't learn your craft. He's not saying don't even understand the rules. He's saying learn, know, be an expert. Once you have disciplined yourself to the point where you are an expert at whatever it is that you are doing, then you can look at being creative and innovative with the rules. Then you can look at it and go, I know this is the rule out here, but what would happen if I break it? And I think I can break it and it'll be okay because I'll come up with something new that might even be a game changer and there might be some new rules, right? But you can't, if you start to do that out the box, right? If you thought, you know what, I just got to be me. I got to express myself. I got to think about the way I think about everything. That's fine, but you're going to pay some dear consequences because other people are not going to be with you. They're not going to understand you. They're going to cast you out. What happens to every artist, even Picasso, right? What happens to them when they go so far, they break the rules that people don't understand it? They don't become valuable until they die. You know, they don't become valuable until maybe later on, if somebody obscure finds them and go, oh, that person was up to something really, really good. Now let me show you, because in their lifetime, they had to suffer. They had to suffer the consequences of not getting along, not being a part of the status quo, not necessarily, and it's okay. I'm not saying don't push the boundaries, absolutely push the boundaries, but know the rules, know the game. So how does that apply to people? When you're working with people and you want people to get on your team, you want to recruit somebody or you want to encourage somebody, you have to make sure that you're not going so far above what they know the rules to be that they can accept it. Because if they can't accept it, even if it's true, even if it's right, even if it makes sense, if they can't accept it, then you're wasting time and you're frustrating them and yourself because they're not ready. You know that old saying, lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink? There's something to that when it comes to people. So you have to assess if a person's ready for whatever it is that you're trying to offer. You have to assess that you have to know that the principles that govern the relationship with you are pretty much the same, even though they may interpret them differently. So you have to straighten out your act and tell people, you know what, because I believe in this, because I know these principles, and in fact, I'm going to do this with you. They're going to hear you and go, oh, this is a wise person. This person knows what they're talking about. Yes, I want to play with this person because it's easy to understand them. They make perfect sense. They're aligned with what I know to be true. Now, if you just come at somebody sideways with something they've never thought about, never heard about, never understood, and you don't even take the time to explain where you're coming from, the principles that guide you, then you're going to create a problem. You're going to create an issue where they're not going to know for sure what you're really up to or why you're really up to it. And then that's what's going to happen. Go ahead, Carmen.
Yeah, I have to say this, and I've got to run on because I have an upcoming meeting in about less than 8 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I did want to say it's important to network with people who share your same values, your principles, as you've been speaking of. And you're doing a great job, Mr. Powell. Keep it up, okay?
Outstanding.
So again, align yourself with people who share your same values, because if you don't, you're going to experience a lot of problems that could have been avoided. You see? So it's important to make sure that alignment is solid and foundational on your own beliefs and networking and across the board.
I forgot I didn't get a chance to tell you because we were rushing to get you in the studio. I'm loving your background and your setup back there.
Oh, thank you so much.
That is looking wonderful. You're like a little studio, little Asian flair and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Go do your thing, girl.
Okay, thank you so much. But I've got to run on. I've got a meeting. I've got to prepare for that meeting. But thank you so much for having me as a guest. I really appreciate it.
And by the way, guys, if you have questions for Carmen, don't worry about it. Throw it in the chat, and we'll get them to her later. And we'll figure out how we can get answers to your questions. So don't feel like you can't speak out and you can't talk to her. Okay, guys. Good to see you, Carmen.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye,
we'll keep
everybody.
This party going. So we're talking about principles and why principles are important. And so if you are networking with other persons, and you need to understand that if you're working from a solid principle background, then you literally can be fearless in how you go about approaching things with them. You don't have to worry about things going sideways or people not understanding where you're coming from, because you've already laid out your principles. You've already laid out the values. You've already laid out the reasons why you're doing the purpose and all that kind of good stuff. It's already there. The agenda is clear. Nobody is kept. No secrets are being kept. Nobody's feeling like they don't understand what they're getting themselves into or who they're getting themselves in with. And that's critically important, because when that happens, sort of your mirror neurons begin to kick in. And what do I mean by that? We begin to sync up. That's why mediums like what we're having right now are so critically important, where we can see each other, talk to each other. You see the expression on your faces. You know, it's so much better than just having a telephone call or listening to a podcast, because what you can see from a person and their expression is so much more valuable than what is said out of their lips. And what happens when you're participating, when you're actively engaged with someone, is you start to sync up emotionally. You start to sync up, that those mirror neurons start to kick in. You start to feel the same things they feel, the same way they feel those things, almost immediately. It's like we're Wi-Fi tethered to each other. And the reason why I tell you it's important to understand the principles underlying everything that you're doing with people is because when you break a principle, you suffer. But you don't just suffer. Everybody around you suffers. Your stakeholders suffer. Your friends and family suffer. People who depend on you suffer, because none of us live in isolation. No matter how distant we are socially, we do have people that still depend on us, and people that we still depend on, and we are humans. Humans are social in nature. And so you have to think about why you should work so hard to understand what you're doing, and why you should practice, and why you should rehearse, and why you should plan, and why you should write your plans down. All of these things are so that you can perform at the highest level possible, and that you're not disappointed with the results that you get back, because that way you don't suffer. and the suffering doesn't spread from you to someone else or somebody else. See, it's really important. And I think that the more you think about that, I mean, when I learn something new, I don't learn it for me, I learn it for you. When I think about something that's going to happen, I don't think about it just for me. I think about it for you. I think about it for all the SWAM businesses that I talk to, all the small women-owned and minority businesses that depend on me to help them with their energy, with their focus, with their motivation, with their commitments to whatever they have to do. And so they figure out how to do it. They're learning everything. Those are things that I think are very, very important, because if you're doing things just for yourself, you don't recognize that you also are a human being. And so therefore, everything that you do is subject to be seen and heard and understood, especially, by the way, if you're doing it on the internet, because that stuff is a permanent record. And you want to make sure that you're above board and you're following the correct principles. It means you have to dig a little deeper. You have to understand. Now, how do you find the principles that you can't find when you are working with people necessarily, because they're not going to tell you? Well, guess what? You're in luck, because I'm going to tell you some of my best, some of my favorite. But I believe that there's maybe 5 good principles and one overarching principle when it comes to networking. And we're going to discuss them really quick. Principle number 1 is the principle of team. I'm just going to read these to you because I think that reading them is going to be more effective. The principle of team works like this. And by the way, all principles have consequences, right? And they have benefits. If you follow the principles, you receive the benefits. If you don't follow the principles, you receive the consequences. So if you understand the principle of team really, really well, what's happening is, because you understand that we are stronger together, you always seek to collaborate with all of your efforts. Because you understand that we are stronger together, you always seek to collaborate in all of your efforts. That's the principle of team. The principle of inclusion works like this. Because you need to be confident in your ideas and your programs, you always include a variety of perspectives from different people in your planning. The principle of emotional intelligence works like this. Because others perceive and react to your feelings as well as your actions, you attend to both and practice emotional wisdom and regulation. People that can't regulate their emotions really well don't do well with others. And because of those mirror neurons we talked about earlier, you need to make sure that, if you're going to be with someone and it's not important for you to express your disdain, your disappointment, your sadness, all that kind of stuff, you want to probably keep those kinds of things in check. Because if, to your best of your ability, you need to be positive and upbeat and sort of be able to focus on someone else, and energetic and interested in other people. Because if you do that, if you approach that way, then with a level of emotional intelligence, and you're going to be able to receive back that same thing. And that's just critically important, especially if you are sad. You pour that sadness out into the universe for other people, then all you're going to get back is sadness, because you're reinforcing your own sadness, which that's a whole different course. We'll have to talk about that later. Proper fit is the next principle. Because connection is vital to your well-being, it's always a valuable pursuit. If you can focus and think about what's important to make a connection with someone else so that connection is good and it's a good fit, then it's going to be good for both of you. It's going to be good to create a better well-being in both of you. And to the extent that you can do it and you work on it, think through it, it's going to be really, really good. And then there's the principle of timing. Because social capital directly influences how you maximize effectiveness and value for your efforts, we must always do the right thing at the right time. When you do the right thing and it's the wrong time, it doesn't work. When it's the wrong time and you try to do the right thing, that doesn't work either. You have to do the right thing at the right time, right? You can't do the wrong thing at the right time. You can't do the right thing at the wrong time. You have to do the right thing at the right time. And if you do that, things are going to work much better. Things are going to work really, really well. You won't have wasted your social capital, right? Gifting, the next principle, or the next, is very important, right? Gifting says the path toward fulfillment requires us to expose and maximize our talent along the way. Whatever talent you have, whatever gifts you have, whatever special differentiator you have to figure out a way to maximize it. If you don't, one, you don't get to practice it. So guess what? You lose it, or it becomes retarded in some way, and it takes you a while to get back up and running, right? So if you have an expertise, if you have a talent, you need to share it. You need to share it often and regularly. Don't worry about how and who's going to pay you for it. Just figure out ways to get as much practice in with the right people, right? Using these other principles we talked about. Now, all the principles we've just talked about right now are covered by one big one, and that is the law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity says the more investments you make in everybody else and everything else, the more that comes back to you, the more return you see on that investment. Now, but you have to be willing to make an investment. That investment can be anything in time, any resource, time, talent, or treasure. These are all resources. You can invest in other things and other people. And the better you get and invest in your time, your talent, your resources with other people, the more results you're going to get back for yourself. So it's very, very important that you understand those principles, because some people show up and they intend not to contribute. They intend to take. And that's not a person that's going to get very far, because a taker is going to be recognized for exactly what they are. And people are going to go, I'm going to hold on to my stuff, because we got a taker. We got a thief in the house. We have a person in the room who's so focused on themselves and what they can get out of this opportunity that they're only focused on who they are and what they want to do and what they want to represent and what they want to take from this room. They want to take information. They want to take relationships. They want to take connections from other people. They don't want to give. They're not there to contribute. And that's a big, big difference. So we're going to come back to that in just a second. The third thing we talked about sharing with you guys today is how do you create magic moments every time? Now, the best quote I could pull from you when it comes to this was my boy Vince Lombardi, who said, winning isn't everything, but wanting to win is. Winning isn't everything, but wanting to win is. So let's think about that for a second. And what is the magic moment? It's that magic moment that you want to have with people. It's that magic moment when you're winning and you know you're winning. It's when things are automatically clicking. Things are happening and everything is muscle memory. You're not trying to work hard. It just seems to be who you are and what you're doing, and things are just working right. That is a magic moment. You know you're having a magic moment when you feel like your purpose is being fulfilled, or the stakeholders that you have are impressed, or the ideas that you are sharing are fully accepted and well received by people that you're working with. These are magic moments. But these are magic moments that you can have all the time, more often than not, when you do one thing exceptionally well. If you understand that the law of reciprocity is real, and if you understand that human beings are connected to one another and all we do is reciprocate one to the other, back and forth, there's a giving and taking in everything in the human society, well, then you understand that all you really have control over is your contribution. You must be in charge of yourself in your contribution. Whenever you're working with everybody or anybody, people want to know what you're up to. And your definition of winning has to be about more about what you're contributing than what you're taking out of a situation. And so if you're learning to reframe what you think winning is into a place of contribution versus a place of receiving, then you're going to receive much more than you could have ever perceived that you're going to receive in any other way. Zig Ziglar once shared with us in a class, and I will never forget it. Success in life works a little bit like this, he would say. You got to give it out in slices. It'll come back to you in loaves. And I understood what Zig was talking about instantly, in that the more you contribute, the more you pay, the more you invest, the more you give, the more that you'll get back. And it may not look like traditionally what you think success looks like by other people's definition, but again, you're refining that definition and coming up with your own definition. But it will bring joy, happiness, and peace to your life and to your business and to everyone around you if you figure out this magic secret that we talked about. So, like I said, the first thing you got to do is get control of your contribution. Understand that. The second thing you got to do is you must build a support system. You must build a team of people who you can depend on for all kinds of support, whether it's financial support, emotional support, if it's support in helping you with your other systems and your other tools and your other, if it's talent they have that you need to leverage, whatever it is, you need to have a quality team of people around you that are supportive and encouraging. I call that your inner circle, right? These people are all wonderful. They're all brilliant. They all care about you deeply enough to be willing to make sacrifices on your behalf, and vice versa. That's your inner circle. All right. You're not taking from your inner circle, but they're there and you're contributing as much as you can. They're contributing as much as they can to you and the other members of the inner circle. That's the brilliance of that kind of support system. The other support you need your own personal advisory council. People who love nothing more than to give you good advice. Good advice. Not just advice, but good advice. Now, getting the expertise of advisors to show up for you and come out to your, dinners or annual meetings or whatever it is that you want to do, where you want to share your ideas and get some feedback. We're going to bookmark that term. Is critically important to success. We all need an advisory council, some group of people who can take us to places where we're not even dreaming about yet, right? They have to have power and influence. They have to have information and talent and resources and be able to tap into resources that you can't tap without them. That's what makes them a good advisory council. And you need your mentors, not just one mentor, several mentors. I mean, you need a mentor for every role that you have, whether it's in business or in life. So if you are a father, you need a mentor for that. That's important for you to be a better father, and then you need somebody who's a better father than you to mentor you, right? If it's important for you to be a better husband, you need somebody who's better than you to be a mentor for that. If it's important for you to be a better, no matter what the role is that you have in your family, cousin, uncle, aunt, whatever, you need somebody who can show you the ways. This is how you be the great cousin. This is how you be the best, because you need ideas to bounce off of. You need people if you do something and doesn't be received, you need somebody to go to and go, you know what? I tried this, it didn't work. And what would you have done? And they can tell you, because they're your mentors. Now, if you're in business, you need several mentors as well. There's certain parts of your business that you're just basically not that good at, no matter what it is. It might be the marketing side, might be the sales side, might be the accounting side, might be the legal side. No matter what side of your business that you have, might be the human resources side, right? No matter what side of your business you're talking about, whatever you have deficits. In fact, even if you don't have deficits, get help. Because back to teamwork, right? The more we structure together, the more we work together, the better we are. It's just that simple. The fourth topic we're going to get into today is the power of the ask. Edwin Hubble, yes, the Hubble telescope is named after this guy, said, equipped with his five senses, man explores the universe around him and calls this adventure science. Equipped with his five senses, man explores the universe around him and calls this adventure science. We all have needs, wants, desires. And we have ways of exploring those needs and wants and desires through interest, through asking, through interrogation, through questions, through pursuit of it, and trying to understand and wrap our minds around it and our arms around it and try to really, really reel it in, bring it in. So whatever we need, we want, we have to ask. We have to ask the question. The question is magical. The question is important. We tend to inquire a lot about our needs. And in doing this, we figure out what the appropriate ways, methods, and opportunities might be to ask directly for the kinds of things we need, the information, the people, the resources to be successful, from people who we perceive have a clue about what that looks like. We all have to take advantage of this intention. We all have to understand the rules of the day. In order to do these things, we must ask. We must take the time and the effort to inquire, to ask the question, to dig a little deeper, help somebody else dig a little deeper. And there's a lot of reasons that go into this. But I'm gonna lay it sort of a principle down to you. Intention backed by preparation rules the day. You cannot prepare, no matter what your intentions are, if you don't ask the questions, if you don't explore, if you don't discuss, if you don't discern, if you don't take the time to really look deep into something and plan. There are a lot of ways for you to do it. There's a lot of ways for you to reach for your dreams. There's a lot of ways to get in play the things that are important to you to be in play within the universe, right? Because you want to be purposeful in your actions. And the only way to do it is to create that kind of engagement that asking the question creates, even in your mind and in somebody else's mind. Now, you got to be purposeful in this. And there's 4 reasons I could think of that you might want to really, really, really be good at learning and understanding the power of ask. Because when you ask, you uncover the truth. That's thing 1. You get closer and closer to uncover the truth. And when you ask, number 2, you continue the growth. Your growth, the growth of another person, it all works together and creates opportunity. The question drives the growth. Number 3, when you ask, when you inquire about something, you are indicating, you are showing and sharing your passion for it, your commitment for it, your intentions around it simultaneously. And so if you want somebody to recognize your gifts and your talents in a certain area, you may want to ask them a question to which you know the answer. You will find that asking a question engages a person's brain, focuses their attention, gets them thinking in a direction that you control. Like, I could ask you, Do you know how much percentage of your brain is used in just doing what it does? How much percentage of energy does your body use in your brain in doing what it does? Anybody in the chat, if you have an opportunity to answer the question, let me see. I want to know what you think about that. How much effort does it cost? What is the percentage of energy that your body uses to make your brain run? It's 20%. 20% of your brain is used. 20% of the energy of your body is used to just function your brain. Now, your brain's on automatic pilot all day, right? It's all picking up senses and information. It's touching, feeling, tasting, using all your senses, like we said earlier, right? To gather information, to get this and to see what's good and what's bad and what's not, and what to keep, what to think about, what to ruminate over, right? Your brain is doing all that. That's on automatic pilot. And then every once in a while, you engage your focus. And you're actually trying to get your brain to do things that you wanted to do, something different, something that they ain't never done before. And it has to, it either has the neurons to do it already. It already has the neuroplasticity has already been set. The neurons have already been placed. Everything is working the way it's supposed to work, and you automatically can do it, or it's a struggle and you can't. The brain is using extra amounts of energy to make all that happen, a lot of it. So think if you don't have the nutrition, what happens if you don't have the energy? You're tired. Anybody ever get tired thinking? Thinking about something, how tired you can become? And right now, when all of us are sitting at home all day, every day, sometimes 10, 12, 20 hours, sometimes in front of a screen, our brains are not used to that. They're used to getting up and moving around, going to the water cooler, talking, going out, have lunch, coming back, going to the bathroom, all that, right? Your brain gets overwhelmed because you're trying to do too much with it, more than it knows how to do. Now, it will catch up to you at some point. You won't be able to go backwards because, you've conditioned now your brain to be this active and this engaged all the time in 1,000 different Zoom calls and all that kind of stuff. So you have to think about that. But why am I talking about that? I'm talking about that because if you learn how to ask, you understand that you are now forcing someone else's brain to focus on actually what you need, actually what you want. They're actually focused on that because you asked. They asked the question, whether it's for information or it's for a person that you're trying to meet that you think they might know or whatever. The key is to do your homework. Now, I'm going to share this with you. This is a secret. Don't let anybody know I told you. If you've done your homework and you're asking people for things that you automatically know they're probably going to say yes to, the chances are they're going to say yes. Now, this is a secret superpower to the ask. That's why the ask is so powerful. If you know somebody is already moving in a direction that you're inquiring about, that you're asking about, and you ask them to move in this direction with you, then it's easier for them to say yes. They don't have to think about it. Their brain's automatically wired to move in that direction with you. This is why understanding how the brain works is so important to the asking question. Because if you understand neuroplasticity, you know that someone's already thought through whatever it is you're trying to get them to do that they want to do. And it's easier for you to ask what you need to ask to move them right along in the right direction, and you'll be in sync and you'll be in accord and everything is going to work. But you must do everything you possibly can to get in sync with somebody. That means a process of discovery. You must ask about the big stuff, like who they are, what makes them tick, how do they function, why do they think certain things about certain things? Because with that information, now you know how to influence, not manipulate them, but influence them in the proper direction. If you don't ask them about them, it means to them, unbeknownst to anybody, even themselves, that you're not really interested in them. And people don't trust people who are not interested in them. In fact, like I said, go back to neuroplasticity. Your brain is hardwired to love people who pay attention to you. Think about that. All someone has to do is give you the attention that you need in the way that you need it, and you cannot help but to fall in love with them. I told you I was going to give you some superpower stuff today, right? That's it right there. So ask about who they are. Ask about why they do the things they do, or how they do the things they do, what they were thinking, what they're thinking about most often. Ask about who they are, not what they want or what they need. They're not ready to answer that question. But if you figure out who they are, guess what? You're on the way to figuring out what they need. Remember, trust is built with both character and competence. If you know about a person's character and you know what they're competent in, then you can trust them, and vice versa. And so you have to figure out a way. Asking allows that dialogue to happen. If you're asking somebody else a deep question, they have every right to ask you the deep question. By the way, that means you're going to be vulnerable. That means you're going to be authentic. That means you're going to be delivering the goods when it comes to working with people, because you're asking the right questions in the right way, in the right timing, and everything is working out perfectly. The last topic we're going to get into today, we're going to end our conversation because I know it's been long, is the ROI of attention. What is the ROI of attention, and why is it important? Now, I gave you a hint earlier. We're talking about the power of ask. When you ask somebody something, you're forcing their attention. And when you force their attention, or helping them focus, or helping them to pay attention, which I believe that's what attention is, it's a payment, right? Then you have what's needed to move the relationship to the next level. Whatever that next level relationship is going to be. We're going to develop a collaboration, a partnership. We're going to work on something together. You're moving in that direction when you're actively showing interest in another person. But here's the thing about attention. Attention is something that we both contribute, remember the contribution conversation we had earlier, as well as receive. It means we give it and we receive it. We contribute it and we accept it, right? And there's 3 vital insights to attention that I want to share with you in this brief discussion. 1, attention is what and how we invest in one another, right? That's thing number 1. Thing number 2, it's how we help each other to feel. And thing number 3, attention is how we know what we know. So let's get into it. How do we invest in each other? We invest in each other by paying attention to one another. When we pay attention to one another, you have to know who you really want to pay attention to. There are people who you believe in. There are people you trust. There are people who you want to align yourself with. Those are people that you should be paying attention to. If you find that a friend of yours, associate of yours, or somebody that you value highly has a post on LinkedIn, don't give them a thumbs up. Or worse, ignore it completely. Do me a favor. Look at the post. What you know about them and how relevant they are in the space, whatever space it is that they're in. If you can see the link to what they posted and who they are, then go ahead and say something about that. Go ahead and say something to the fact that, I really love that you made this post. Of course, you would make this post because of who you are. And I know how much you care about this community and how much you care about this thing that you're sharing and so on and so forth. So thank you so very much for sharing it. It really makes a big difference. I read it, I looked at it, took a look at it, and I think I'm going to be able to use it for this purpose and this reason, and it's going to make all the difference for me. Thank you so very much. And then link their name to that comment that you made. Why do I suggest you do this? Everybody who posts, shares, produces, or communicates in any way, shape, or form wants to know that what they're sharing is valuable. They want to know that what their actions are somehow significant or meaningful to other people. Because if you don't, then what tends to happen is people don't know that what they're doing and what they're sharing has any relative meaning or significance to anyone else. It's the feedback that gives them that information. And so you have to give them that information. That is what attention does. Attention, it gives people the feedback that lets them know that who they are and what they're doing is relevant, it's meaningful, it's significant. Without that active attention, there's no way for a person to know that they're doing something well. They can think in their mind, like, I knocked it out of the park. Yeah, I'm great. They give themselves a pat on the back all they want, but they can't validate it. They can't prove it. If you have friends on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, you have a chance to endorse them and you haven't, shame on you. Because you've missed an opportunity to help them, help encourage them, and help them know that somebody out there is paying attention. Somebody out there is relevant. It feels like they are relevant. They're sharing something relevant. They're sharing something meaningful. I have built friendships with editors of news journals and podcasts and people who produce all kinds of content because I consume the content. I'm changed by the content. And so I'll go out and tell the person what it meant to me to receive that content and how I'm going to use it and how it's going to affect me. In fact, sometimes I even give them, I say, you know what, I'm going to invite you onto my show, or I'm invite you to come to one of my meetings where we can meet my other friends and associates because I think you're that relevant and yet you're that important. And I like to share you with my other friends. It sets the bar for the relationship every time. It's a great thing to do. All right. Because it's not about being selfish. It's about opening up and sharing and being interested and paying attention. It makes everything work. Suresh has a question. Marvin, how about asking with a question like, in your opinion, did I make it clear to you and you understood what I'm asking of you? Yes. Asking for feedback is a brilliant way to focus someone's attention. In fact, when I'm good in front of our roundtable meeting, I get a chance to give a presentation almost every time about some kind of educational information. And when I'm good, I will do a private chat with a few people. And I say, listen, I got something special I want to say today. And I really want to see if it comes off well. I need you to give me some feedback when it's all said and done. Can I depend on you for that? Now, what I'm doing by doing that is I'm focusing their attention, because usually their attention it could be all over the place. They could be thinking about who's in the meeting, what they want to say when it's their turn, all these kind of things that's going through their mind, and they're not thinking about really what I'm saying. They're not really thinking about what I'm trying to contribute to them. But if I tell them I put something a little very special, very meaningful together that I really want them to pay attention to, and I really need their feedback as to the quality of the message and the delivery. And I'm going to be asking them later on. Now, all of a sudden, that attention is a little different. I can see them on screen. They're like writing down stuff after I speak. Yeah, it's good, right? So it's critically important. If you want attention, a question is an amazing way to get it. It's an amazing way to get people thinking about the things that you need them to think about in order to actively engage with you. So you have to do that. You have to make that investment. You have to invest enough to be interested. You have to invest enough to be interesting. You have to make the investment in other people. One other way to make that investment is to interview them, to find out who they are and what makes them tick. In the B&I world, we had something called the Gaines profile. I always love using the Gaines profile to get to meet people. But then I discovered something greater when I created it called True Voice. And True Voice is another program that we use to interview people to figure out who they are, what makes them tick, and then build trust based on that instead of what they want to say. We just get right down to the real. I love the True Voice process. And so it's a great program. But you have to analyze your resources as well. What can you contribute? What can you give? If you don't know what's in your own toolbox, you don't know how much time you have. You don't know how much, that you can share and give with somebody. You don't know how much money you can share and give with somebody, how much value you bring to the table. You don't know what kind of talent you're willing to give off to someone else. Then you don't have anything to play with. You come to the playground empty-handed. So think about that. How do you fill up how do you make sure that you're using your time, talent, and treasure wisely when you show up to network with people? What do you have to offer, and how do you make that offer so that most people are going to go, yeah, I can see using that. I can see participating in that. I can see contributing something to that myself. We got to do this. Because the second thing we do after we learn how to invest in each other is we help each other feel. When we ask the question, when we turn around and give people attention, we're inviting them in to our universe. We're looking them dead in the eye. We're paying attention to them. And we're inviting them in. We're saying that they're important. We're saying that, what they're communicating to us is vital. We're not looking off somewhere else. We're not, paying attention to, our email or doing something else, talking and chatting, whatever, ourselves on mute. We're actively paying attention. Right? It says a lot to another person. It makes them feel welcome. It makes them feel supported. It makes them feel encouraged. It makes them feel meaningful, significant, and of course, relevant, right? It's how, like I said, the third thing is how we know what we know. Without people paying attention to us, giving us feedback, we have no way to check if we're doing it right, if we're saying it right, if we believe it's right. No way to get the feedback. And feedback is critical to success. It's critical to all growth and development. I wrote something down here. I don't know. I'm trying out you guys want to tell me what you think about it. Attention is the magical currency that our brains transfer in two ways, both automatically and controlled. And what I mean by that is attention is something that we transfer. It's something we give. It's something that we share. It's something that we pay to other people. And in that way, it's magical because it's like a trade. It's an exchange. I give you attention. You give me love. I need love. I need to give you attention. It's real simple. That's the currency. That's the exchange. I give you attention. You give me attention. I need attention. You need attention. Pretty soon, we're attending to one another, right? It's very important. So think about that. The fact is we all want to be understood. We all want to be considered and cared for. We all want to be thought of with kindness. We want to be treated thoughtfully. We all want to know that we are meaningful, significant, and relevant. Okay, that's all I got for this week. Next week, we're going to be delving deep into collaboration, the ultimate we thing, building on the frequency and intensity of relationships, creating 360 mentoring, stories that stick, and representation matters. Hopefully you had a good time. I know I did. It's 1:20. We've been at this for an hour and almost 20 minutes now. If anybody has any questions about anything, feel free to fire away. I'm here for you. Whether you're watching this on Facebook or you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to join the group, subscribe, call us, hit us in the chat, send me an instant message if there's something that you want. If you like to take advantage of the True Voice program that I talked about earlier, and you want me to bring it to you or send it to you, I'd be more than happy to do it. All you gotta do is ask me for it. So hit me up wherever it is, whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, hit me up a DM and say, I want the True Voice program. I'll send it to you, right? Other than that, I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. I see you guys next time. Love you.